Live on Fox Sports in Australia and Ferrari's YouTube channel around the world. Ahead of race 2, the final one of the weekend here at round 4 of Ferrari Challenge Australasia for 2025. Greg Rust and Sam Charwood with you for the coverage, all as a part of a fabulous festival here that celebrates everything Ferrari. We are at Sydney Motorsport Park, about 40 minutes drive from the heart of the harbour city in the west. This is a fabulous precinct here. There is a drag racing venue and a speedway circuit just next door. Lots of great industry around us. But Sam, today, this whole area just oozes everything prancing horse. Good crowd here.
It is exactly that, Rusty. It's been such a fantastic day today. Such a weekend to date as well. And we've got idyllic conditions here, about 19 degrees. Interestingly, a lot of our drivers set personal bests in qualifying this morning. That's how good the track conditions are, and we're raring to go for this second race of the weekend.
There's been some amazing stories as well from the teams in pit lane getting cars ready for this final one of the weekend. And the story, which we'll come to, has been this blue car behind us, Enzo Cheng, who has starred this season in the copper shell class, but has absolutely proven himself an outright runner this weekend, hasn't he?
Absolutely. He's been the man to beat. We'll go and speak to him in a moment. But there's so many interesting storylines across the weekend. We've got Policina there, Jim. He's done a great job all weekend as well. So I think this race is anyone's for the taking. We don't have Antoine Gittany here, but a lot of guys are going for that top prize.
We are with you for the next hour of racing here live. We'll be bringing you the podium before we wrap things up as well. Renato Liberto, who follows the class and is embedded in Ferrari. He bleeds red, Renato. He is with us for the coverage as well, so you'll get some great expert insights. Why don't we break and go and talk to some of the people and soak up some of the things on the grid, Sam?
Let's go for it, Rusty. So I guess the most obvious starting point, as we said, is Enzo Cheng, who's been very generous with his time. Hello again, Enzo. We've got to stop meeting like this. Front row of the grid, you have been an absolute force this weekend. Has everything gone to plan the way you hoped it had?
Yeah, absolutely. 2 pole positions and 1 race win outright so far. And, I'm just trying to make that 2 outright wins.
Really sharp qualifying time this morning in the 129s, which is no mean feat around this circuit. How did it feel?
Yeah, it felt really good. I think we improved on yesterday's pole time by about 2 or 3 tenths. So, no, it feels really good.
And yesterday we saw you manage the race brilliantly. There was so much going on behind you, a stoppage in between, you had different people to worry about. What's the plan for today? You've got Jim alongside you there. What's the plan?
Look, I think I've just got to keep Jim behind, because if I let him get in front of me, he's extremely difficult to get past. So, trying my best to stay in front after down to turn 2.
Thank you again for your time and enjoy the race. Rusty really sets the stage for a fantastic race this afternoon.
Why don't we go to the other side of the grid, Sam, and talk with Jim Policina, who did a super job as that qualifying session unfolded. To begin with, in the kind of first half of that qualifying, we thought it might have been a second row start for Jim, but boy, you dug deep when it mattered, didn't you?
Yeah, thanks, Rusty. Yeah, we went out on an old set of tyres and we bolted the greens on for the last couple of laps, nailed a lap and banked them. So we're going out with the freshest set of tyres for this race. That was part of the plan.
I reckon that's great that you've shared that for the audience, because the actual running that you did on that new set of rubber, you really minimised, didn't you?
That's right. I mean, this tyre, this track is a high deg track, so the fresher the tyre, the better the performance of the vehicle. So minimising the amount of laps is an obvious key ingredient.
You've got some great variety on your CV, Jim, from success in production car racing before the pandemic, Super 3 and more. What is it about Challenge that you've enjoyed so much?
I enjoy a lot of things about this category. The cars are amazing. The competitors, there's a good camaraderie, which sometimes lacks in some categories. And it's a family affair. So my kids, my wife, our friends, they all come out, they enjoy the hospitality. So it brings together a lot of positive elements. So it's a fantastic class.
All right, you are looking, there's a great sea of people here on the grid at the moment, the run down into turn 1. What have you got to find from the stock that you have in a racing sense to beat Enzo Cheng? He's had a breakout 2025 season.
Enzo's fantastic. He's a good little driver and he's a good friend as well. I guess turn 1's going to be important. Who's bravest under brakes? Getting through that first corner, getting some temperature into the tyres leading up to that is going to be the key. So I'm going to use some of my old Fox to try and do that. If that's not the case, I'll have to just follow Enzo and wait for him to make a little mistake.
Okay, use that old Fox stuff. Thank you for talking to us before the race gets underway. There he is, Jim Policina. You want to grab another one? We've got lots of things happening here on the grid.
It is a sea of people, Rusty. Why don't we go for a walk? We'll follow the cameraman through. As you can see here, so many people really immersing themselves in the Ferrari experience this weekend. It is, of course, round 4 of the Ferrari Challenge Australia Championship. We've been to Bathurst, we've been to Phillip Island, we've already had a stop here at Sydney Motorsport Park. In a few months, we will also be going to the Bend. Rusty, it really is building as a fantastic championship hunt.
And I think, as Renato mentioned in our qualifying coverage earlier today, probably the key difference that's worth noting, Sam, compared to our last outing here, is that it was as a part of the Australian GT Championship, lots of other support categories. This has been about Ferrari being centre stage this weekend and this class. So the track and the way it's evolved, we haven't had a whole heap of other categories on it. It's been very different to Sydney Motorsport Park, say, about 6 weeks ago.
Absolutely, totally different complexion. We really get to highlight the Ferrari brand, and I think even the fans here this weekend, it speaks to the strength of Ferrari. We've got young, we've got old, we've got enthusiasts that have followed the badge for a long time. We've got people that are here for the very first time at a racetrack, so there's a really great mix. It's also a really great story in terms of drivers as well. You know, guys making big gains across the weekend. One of them is Mark Hutters, who I might go and speak to in a moment. Let's go over and have a chat to him. Mark, if I can, I might jump in. Hello again. Yeah, going well, thank you. How are you? Now, great. You have had such a great weekend. We've seen you getting quicker and quicker with each session. The confidence is growing with the car?
Yes, it is. Yeah, it's a terrific car. We did some minor setup changes, which although it took me a little while to get used to, it's making the car flow a lot better. So.
I love your story. You know, yourself and David Frisch, you really embody what this challenge series is about. A couple of mates that sort of started out sharing a car. Now you've got your own entries. What's it like racing a car here at Sydney Motorsport Park?
Oh, it's pretty exciting. These cars are they're amazing. They're very, very sharp tools, and to have so many people around, and it's a great experience.
Up here at the pointy end of the grid, lots of people around. A Sunday afternoon at Sydney Motorsport Park. What are your hopes for the race?
Oh, top three would be terrific. Yeah.
Did you think when you started this adventure that you'd be talking about top threes?
No, no, I would not, Sam. No, that's a progression, I think. So that's good.
Yeah, good on you. All the best for the race, and thanks for your time.
Thanks, champion. Good on you.
Sam, why don't we focus a little? I mean, one of the other great stories here on the grid is the coaching assistant that that the drivers get. So here's Lockie Manif at the front of the car of David Trewern. So why don't we dive in here, gents? Can I get in and speak with both of you for that matter? Firstly, you've got the kind of coaching hat on this weekend again. Are you enjoying that, and what are the kind of pre-race messages?
Oh, it's awesome. I love it. It's been great to work with David. For the whole year here, he's been improving so much, and considering he'd driven his first ever race car, barely 6 months ago, which is this. It's not the easiest car to learn in. He's doing a really good job. So it's a pleasure to join with him, and also working with Masahiro here this weekend. So he's just a row behind us here. So yeah, it's been a blast.
Qualifying was epic. Great job to get it on the second row. What is, I mean, just soaking this up, all these people, the festival, it's been huge, hasn't it?
No, it's great. I mean, this is by far the best turnout that we've had. It's fantastic. So it's exciting, feeling a bit more relaxed. Every event get a little bit more relaxed, and obviously the challenge of motorsport is always go as fast as you can, but keep it on the black stuff, and it's a fine line. So, just trying to move the line up every event.
So can we perhaps, that just over our cameraman's shoulder here is the podium. Be nice to be up there at the end of the day.
Yeah, I hope so. That's obviously the aim, and I was up there yesterday and just got to get a good start. I've got my colleagues here all gunning for the same spot at the apex of turn one, so we'll see who gets there first.
Smile says it all. Have a fantastic race.
Great, thank you.
Really cool to spend a bit of time with both of them there ahead of the race, and nice to see them so relaxed too.
Absolutely. And, we've spoken to drivers, we've spoken to driver coaches. I guess some of the unsung heroes this weekend are the mechanics as well. If we go to the back of the grid, we've actually got Paul Van Lowenhout's car. Now, 2 hours ago, that was pulled apart in pieces, and they've gone and basically replaced the rails on it.
We thought it was game over, that it wouldn't be a part of this race, didn't we?
Literally in the last few minutes, they've got it back on the grid. Now, that car, Paul's been quite competitive all weekend. We saw Jim Pollicini yesterday pull a great race from basically last on the grid all the way to the pointy end. I won't be surprised if Paul does the same today.
Massive effort by them, and I'm told they literally got it complete within minutes of pit lane closing to get out here on the grid, and I think it's been a collective, a bit of an all-in effort from everyone to get that to happen.
Yeah, so Ferrari comes here, they basically bring 4 different size containers to be able to stock all of the common parts of these cars. It was just fortunate with the off that Paul unfortunately had this morning that they had a lot of the parts that they needed to be able to patch that thing together, and he's back out here racing. So really incredible story.
What can we learn out of yesterday? It was Enzo Cheng's story in many respects. Antoine Catani's not here this weekend, obviously. So the Eastern Creek second visit, if you will, takes on a bit of a different complexion. We'll show you some highlights of his qualifying lap very shortly, but it was dynamite, wasn't it?
Oh, it really was. He's been rock solid all weekend, and that's the thing. I think he's very unshakable, unflappable. He's not worried if people are, on his tail trying to chase him down. He showed that yesterday in the race, and I'm expecting a very similar disposition from him today. I think he's very relaxed. He knows he's got the speed, so he's just eyes forward. Sam
will be bringing us updates throughout the race from the pit lane. We're about to get set for racing. In the meantime, two guys that are very much at the forefront of Scuderia Ferrari, driving the fastest ever road car they've experienced.
Woo-wee. This thing is quick. It's so fast. This is the fastest road car I've ever been in.
Hello.
Yeah.
How are you?
Namaste.
Come to be
How's the car?
Pilot.
You're driving me? Oh, shoot. All right. That's good.
I was waiting for you.
Let's do it.
Ciao tutti. So are you ready, LH?
Yeah. This is nice. It's fast. Holy crap. Wow. Okay, I gotta order me some of this. One of these. It drives so nice.
I'll let you drive it.
No, you keep driving.
No, drive it. I want you to enjoy this beauty. Oh, yes. Sexy sound. I hate your button. Oh, the brake is unbelievable.
Brake's really good.
I hate it. I hate
This thing is quick.
It's so fast.
This is the fastest road car I've ever been in.
Look at that. There are some fans. Hello. Ciao.
Ciao.
Very nice.
Sheesh.
But I've got a headache. I was trying and be nice with you.
What do you mean? I was
not pushing too much, not trying. He went flat out. We were saying how light the car feels. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Like the turning is so good, so reactive.
This is the fastest road car Ferrari's done, for sure.
In terms of balance, I think it's the best car ever.
I've never driven anything like that on the road. Yeah, this is another level. We doing a lap?
Yes, of course.
Oh, God. We're sick already. It's got good downforce as well, huh? I like it. What color are you getting?
Full black.
It's definitely a very cool car. Very futuristic, you know? Yeah.
Ciao a tutti. Ciao, ciao. Grazie.
That's it. Thanks so much. Thanks.
And of course, both of those drivers will be in action when Formula One resumes tonight in Austria. What a terrific sight that is. And even above the pit lane complex there with all the Tifosi, let's call them our Tifosi here in Australia. They're very passionate fans of Ferrari, and they have been able to soak up so much here this weekend. Some classics that the New South Wales and ACT Ferrari Car Club have kindly brought here over on the skid pan area. There has been sims for both young and older fans for that matter. Some racing, of course, with Challenge, all sorts of track activity. There is an F40 here and all sorts of hero cars. So as the grid gets gradually cleared and we gear up for racing here, let's take a look at the field of play for you, if you like. Sydney Motorsport Park, we revisited for a second time in as many weeks. The layout is the traditional 3.9 kilometre layout that you have known over the years, that has hosted MotoGP, for example, world and domestic touring car competition. 11 turns in all that run down the main straight. They get up to 265 k's an hour in a challenge car here. Hold your breath through turn one, and lots of good action zones around this venue. On that note, why don't we check out what it's like at speed, and we'll do that with a hot lap with your pole sitter, Enzo Cheng, who delivered a time of 1 minute 29 seconds and grabbed pole for today's race by 0.66, over 6/10 of a second. Nice tidy line on the run down to turn two. What Renato Liberto refers to as a patience corner. You're hungry, you want to get on that throttle as soon as you possibly can. It rises up and over here and then drops down. Listen to the engine. Turbos, beautiful. Race control keeping a very close eye on this section. Don't exceed track limits to your right there. Working around Corporate Hill. Hear it leaning on the Pirelli control tyres. Hard under brakes for the right-hander. Try and use some of the exit off to your left if you can. And then set yourself up, carry some nice speed into the final complex of corners. But the risk is you don't want to overstep it, you don't want to overrun in here. You need to get good drive off these final corners to set you up for the main straight. Enzo on the throttle, Enzo Cheng, the pole sitter for today's race, unleashing all of that horsepower. What a sight. That's a lap of Sydney Motorsport Park. Renato with us in commentary now, and he has literally, I think, come from an exhausted but a joyous pit lane. The story of the repair of that car, which joins the back of our grid, is remarkable. We did not think that would happen. Well done.
Rusty, literally, I've just run from the grid from that car where the crew were peeling the barcodes still off the parts they had put on the car. The front bar still had a barcode being removed as they pulled up on the grid. That's how late it was. A massive effort, and thank you to the MC Corsa team and the AF Corse team from Italy getting that on the grid. It was just a phenomenal effort to get that car back. And that's Paul Van Lowen out there in the car 30. I think that's going to be the fan favourite car for this race. There was a crowd of 200 people around that garage for hours just watching the team. There it is there on screen.
Great work.
Just a massive job. Big pat on the back to all that team involved in that. And Paul is just super happy to be on the grid. A guy who's done seasons of racing with us in Europe and Asia Pac. In the Challenge Series, and you know, he's really a racer, but also he's just so appreciative of the crew there. He's just a wonderful guy, and we're great to see him on the grid. And Challenge racing dates back to the early 1990s. He's driven several iterations over time, hasn't he? Raced them. That's right, 458 and then the 458 Challenge Evo. So when they put the wing kits on the 458, which we have, those on the grid walk would have seen that car through the 488 Challenge Evo and now into the 296. So he's a well-seasoned racer. He's won the World Championship in Abu Dhabi one year we were over there, and multiple race winner throughout Europe and Asia. So he's really got to get his eye in this new car. This is the first time he's driven it this weekend, but he's raced here with me before in Australian GT. He knows the track, he knows how to race, and we saw Jim Pollicina off rear grid yesterday come up with a podium, so let's see how he goes.
We'll get set to head off on the sighting lap, the warm-up lap in a moment. Congratulations to everybody from Ferrari Australasia management. It's been a superb weekend here. Good turnout both yesterday and today. And it's a reminder, while you and I love our racing, there is huge love across the eras, the ages for Ferrari and car culture. That's the secret sauce here, isn't it? It's been a terrific weekend.
On the pit walk we just did before the grid walk we've now done, I saw kids getting photos in front of cars, then holding the phone and taking photos of their parents in front of the same car. It was awesome to see. I think it's one of those brands, Ferrari, that everybody has a story. Look at the crowd there,
Brilliant.
the amount of red that's in there, and all the flags waving. It is a fantastic sight to see. And I think I said yesterday to Cam, my first memories of motorsport and racing that probably got me to what I'm doing now was standing in a Formula One car, a Ferrari, at Adelaide Grand Prix when I was 4 years old, and that sort of stuck with me my whole life as a memory of motorsport. And being here today and seeing so many kids and families here is really great to see, because I'm sure a future champion is probably sitting amongst the crowd here today.
It's infectious, and they have never found Renato's cure, and that's a good thing. So they head off. What can the likes of a Jim Pollicina and even that next row behind him, the likes of Hudders, Trewern, David Frisch, what can they do here to try and find some sort of chink in the armour for Enzo Cheng? Not easy done.
No, and I think someone like Jim Pollicina with his sort of racing history, he's also offended on one-lap old tyres. He did one clean lap on those new tyres he bolted on. So he's on freshish rubber from the front of the grid. He's the kind of guy he just needs to keep pressure on him. Probably doesn't need to try and run away with the win from the start, but keep pressure on him and try and make Enzo make a mistake, overshoot a corner, and then he's got some gap to try and play with to win this race.
The lap he stitched together was superb. He did it relatively early in the qualifying session too, a 1 minute 29.6, the only driver in the 29s. But when we spoke to Jim Pollicina on the grid there before, he let us in on a little something, and that is he did very minimal laps on those tyres to secure that spot on the front row. It was a good strategic play, and that gives him some quality rubber underneath him for this race.
That's right. And Rusty, I think as well for Mark Hudders, David Trewern and David Frisch, our 3rd, 4th and 5th on the grid, I think all of them have also done a personal best in qualifying. So over the years they've been coming here doing Club Challenge with us and then racing in the previous round and now, all of them are hitting their peak, you might say, at this point in time. So it's going to make for a really interesting start of the race to see how those guys go. And then you've got people like Taguchi-san just off the back, Jared Ferrari in the 488, who we know has been strong. We know he's a hard racer as well. I think that sort of top 7, top 8 are going to be a really close bunch for the start of this race.
And 13, car 13, off the very back of the grid. So Paul Van Loenhart, he will be a charger in this, absolutely no doubt about it. All bunched up here now. Pollicina with experience in supercars, Super 3 and more. As he detailed in the conversation we had on the grid there, has loved being a part of this class. And you may notice a different shape among the new generation cars that dominate this field. We do celebrate a little of the previous generation, the 488. And we'll talk a little bit about that. Set to go racing in the hands of Motorsport Australia Race Control. Thank you to the team in there this weekend who've played a very important part in it as well. Enzo Cheng controlling the field. Looks pretty tidy so far. Jim Pollicina.
Great run by Jim there. The outside line, I've said this before, is a really good spot to start here because you can do exactly that. Get a good run, good wide entry and chop the nose of the car on the inside. And hopefully this gives him a little bit of buffer here to play on from this point.
He said that was what he would have to do. And if he couldn't do that going into turn 1 for the first time, he would be reliant on those around him to maybe create an opportunity. That's brave. Great work. Great jump and reaction time from Jim Pollicina, who leads this one from Enzo Cheng, Hudders, Trewern, Taguchi-san with a good start as well, fighting there for that 5th place. I think David Frisch has just snatched it back.
And this is where the multi-class is as well. You can see Misho Stefan there in the 213 car trying to find his way through Taguchi-san to get onto the back of Jared Ferrari. That's what he said earlier on. He's going to get on the back of that car and stay with Jared because he does push on early and then he's going to play the catch-up game. So the multi-class here of the 488 Trofeo Pirelli cars and the 296s always provides a great mix of racing.
Got from the drone as we go around Corporate Hill, that long left-hander, a little bit of, full throttle again, and then it's hard on the brakes, isn't it, for the right-hander?
And it makes it look very flat there from the drone above, but it's actually a blind corner at 160 k's an hour. You cannot see the middle or the exit of that corner on the way in. So it is a really challenging section of the track there, and that drone is a fantastic shot, just showing, I guess, how fast those cars are moving through that corner.
beautiful bright sunshine here at the moment. Temps of around ambient around 20 degrees. He's pushing Jim Pollicina. A little puff of dirt or dust using just maybe a fraction over, and we're talking millimetres off the end of that curve. Enzo's had a great run through the final complex, and he's got a little bit of ground here. It's less than half a second between Pollicina and Enzo Cheng.
And again, I've said before, with the racecraft and the experience of Jim, you wonder if that's a little psychological game, a little puff of dust just to unsettle Enzo behind, to sort of play with his mind a little bit about, you know, what sort of Jim's doing. But it's great to see Jim sort of still holding his own. We know he's on those fresher tyres, but again, if they push too hard too soon, it's how they manage the tyre over this 30-minute race that really matters for that attack at the last part.
Need to celebrate the organisations too, the teams, if you like, and so beautifully represented by those from all around, for that matter, from MC Corsa to Sagami and more.
Yeah, it's a dealer-based championship. So we have Ferrari dealerships from around the country and network that are working on the cars. The dealership technicians, along with some race mechanics, are working and preparing these cars. And then within that, obviously, we have the driver representation of different dealers that they're from. We've got drivers here from our Perth dealership, Barbagallo Ferrari. We've got drivers from Continental Cars in Auckland in New Zealand, and obviously on the east coast of Australia represented here. So there's not only the drivers on track, but there's also the teams having a bit of rivalry in the points as well, which is great to see.
Yeah, these two are showing great pace early on. It says 4/10 on your timing on the left of screen there, but it is absolutely closer than that. Nice and tidy once again from Enzo Cheng for the run onto the main straight. But it's Jim Pollicina leading the way, and his sectors are the best we've seen in this race so far. But fastest lap of the race at the moment goes to Enzo Cheng, and have a look at the difference. They're split by 0.08 of a second that time by.
And Enzo just buying back that little bit of time each lap, but I guess maybe he's sizing up Jim, understanding what he's got tyre-wise there. We know they've both gone quicker than this in race pace. They've both gone quicker than this in qualifying, but what they don't want to do is sort of slow each other down to fall back into the trap of Hutters, Trewern and Frisch there with that little pack behind them, because yesterday that did cause the outcome of the race to change a little bit because of that traffic management with those cars.
Yep, back to Hutters, who holds down, Mark Hutters holding down that third place at the moment. It's 5.4 seconds between Enzo Cheng and Mark Hutters. So these two have broken clear of the field at the moment. They're pushing each other. Ordinarily, you would think that would hold them up, perhaps maybe give Hutters a chance to get a little closer to the mix.
It's probably a good time, Rusty, to remind our viewers of the multi-class within the 296 as well. So the red windscreen banner you can see on Jim Pollicina's car is a Trofeo Pirelli class. The more experienced drivers, usually cars numbers 1 to 99. And then the yellow banner on Enzo's car is Copper Shell. So whilst they're both racing for an outright here, they're both currently going to get a trophy for first position in their class. And that's where you need to play a little bit of that mind game at the moment. Enzo, whilst he's in Copper Shell, is currently now leading the Drivers' Championship outright against Antoine Gattani with not being here this weekend. So he needs to weigh up, does he want to be on the top step, or does he want to just be on the top step of his class and still get that maximum haul of points towards the Drivers' Champion for the end of the year?
Nice chat with Enzo Cheng yesterday about all of that. You know, is it, outright wins? Was that what he craves, or is the focus on winning the Copper Shell title? Make no mistake, he's very, very proud to have that kind of rare moment in motorsport where you can take an outright win like that, but he has his eyes squarely on winning that Copper Shell crown too, doesn't he? So
that's right. With this program, we've got driver coaches and engineers obviously mentoring these drivers through that. And with both cars, we've mentioned before, Ben Porter is the driver coach for this, and how they manage that strategy that's happening on track in this situation where you're coaching. It's like coaching two football teams to both win the grand final. It's a difficult position to be in, but I guess there's different strategies for both that they have to work with.
So why don't we just continue what Renato has raised there? We'll keep an eye on this battle that's unfolding here, but let's bring in a bit of coach conversation. Let's go to Sam in the pit lane.
Thank you, Rusty. Yeah, I've just spoken to Ben Porter. So at the moment, Enzo is running a 2-2 configuration with his traction control system, which means there's more intervention from the traction control system than what Jim is running. So expect Enzo to probably manage his tyres a little bit better. It also comes down to driving characteristics for both guys as well. Enzo is traditionally a little bit stronger under brakes, whereas Jim uses up a little bit more road on the exit. So you expect him to go through tyres perhaps a little bit quicker. Now, just on tyres at the moment, the ambient temperature here is about 19 degrees. The track temperature, 22 degrees. I've just checked it with a gauge, which is the optimum window for these Pirelli tyres.
Sam Charlwood in the pit lane for us as our coverage of Ferrari Challenge Australasia continues. Enzo Cheng showing the nose a little as they came down the main straight. He may be relatively new still to wheel-to-wheel racing, but that's a classic move, often made by those with years of experience.
Absolutely, and something that Sam just touched on then as well, talking about that ABS and traction settings. I actually noticed a couple of laps prior, that camera angle from sort of drivers right at turn 2, looking back at the cars at approach. You could actually see the angle of sort of dive of the nose of the car was way more aggressive in Enzo's car than it was in Jim Polisina's. And that's obviously, you know, a direction of how hard he's braking in that car and how late he's braking, but it does help shift weight to the nose of the car and help the car turn in. And if you're trying to make a late braking maneuver up the inside, you do want to have that extra rotation because you need to take the tighter line to get up the inside of a car. So I think he's sizing himself up at the moment for turn 2 could be one of those spots, and maybe even turn 8 here, one of those spots where Enzo gets the nose up the inside and tries to make a pass.
Two drivers, two perhaps different driving styles, which is what you've expanded on a little bit there. And although it's a control formula, there is adjustability. I mean, Sam talked about traction control settings. There are a few things you can do, aren't there?
That's right. With traction control in these cars, he said 2-2 configuration. They have two TC1 and TC2 switches on the steering wheel, and the way we sort of summarise that to the drivers is setting 1 is when the system kicks in, how early does it intervene if it needs to intervene, and the second one is how much does it do, how much does it cut power, cut torque, or maybe limit wheel speed as a result of that. And that 2-2 setting is what most of the drivers in this field are probably running at the moment, but the key to what Sam said was the way in which the car manages the tyre. If you do get a little bit more wheel spin, and every time you're coming out of turn 2, turn 6, where you're putting all that 700 horsepower down, it will fatigue the tyre over the course of the race. And that's where we may see then the opportunity. Yesterday, particularly Jim's car, starting on green, fresh tyres, the car was sliding around a lot towards the end of the race. Oh, that's Michaud there keeping pressure on Jared Ferrari, running wide at turn 1. That's a nasty place to have that off. But these two, I said before, this is where Michaud needed to catch up to Jared to put that pressure on. These guys are racing for a championship at the moment.
You're approaching, before you hit the brakes at the end or into turn 1 there, it's 265 k's an hour. How much speed comes off for the apex, for the corner itself?
The 488 challenge, you're doing about 215 at the apex of turn 1. So we're seeing about 225-ish for the 296, about 215 for the 488. And that's, that's a huge amount of pace you're carrying through that corner. We're talking a tenth of a second, you're travelling, 10 metres kind of thing in the middle of a corner. So when you do make that slight mistake, you do move well offline there, but he's done very well to gather that up and not lose too much time, because he now needs to apply the thumb screws to the back of Michaud's car.
We do celebrate the latest, greatest technology that you are watching here on screen, the current generation car, but there is a little something that is, it just evokes this wonderful series of memories. The sound of the 488 is something pretty special.
And even though it's a twin turbocharged engine, which does mute the engine slightly, as a race car we don't have to worry so much about the sound. So yeah, you do have that fantastic V8 wail kind of coming out of the back of the car, particularly when you're inside the car. The sound is absolutely phenomenal. But that V6 twin turbo that we're hearing in the 296s still sounds absolutely amazing.
Fastest lap of the race belongs to Jim Polisina, 1 minute 31.76, and he has about a half a second just over on Enzo Cheng at the moment. Things starting to settle down. Jim wants this race win badly by the looks of it, and Enzo maybe just trying to play a waiting game. We're almost at half race distance. Is that kind of a coach's call in some respects? Try and encourage the driver to be in the best possible position by the end of the race by saving a few things right now.
Yeah, I had some advice when I was a younger racer, is you only win the race on the last lap. You really have to be in front on that last lap. That's when it does count. And if you can hold to the back, if Enzo can hold to the back of Jim's car whilst conserving a bit of that energy from the tyre and the brakes in the vehicle, then he has a better car under him at the end of the race to make more of a difference. So it really could be a strategy play here. Again, you've got Ben working on both. That's the MC Corsa team there again, watching them with bated breath, two of their drivers duking it out. Adriano Giorgi there in the foreground. I'm surprised he's got his eyes open at the moment. He's been working incredibly hard. They've got over 60 crew here running all of these cars. cars this weekend under their team, and they've just had that massive rebuild in car 13. So a huge effort from him and his really supportive crew.
Just on that note too, the 13 is up to 10th spot at the moment and is only 1.7 seconds shy of Tony Balden in 9th. So it's not as fast the progress as we perhaps expected, but we do have to put a little caveat in there, immense repair work on that car to get it on the grid.
I think I actually saw hammers and spanners as the car was rolling out of the pits at that point, just to get the last bit of bonnet fitment right.
Get me out there.
Yeah, it's a huge effort. These cars are very intricate in their design. They're obviously designed when there is an accident. There is designed to protect the occupant, shed a lot of energy, which does mean a lot of parts that need to be replaced as a result of that. But, it's a huge effort. I think at one stage I saw 11 crew in that garage working all simultaneously. Australian, English, Italian, a bit of Italian English in between, a bit of hand signals. It was the language of motorsport, really, watching them all work together, because they just work as such a well-oiled machine, seeing those guys work together to get this car going.
Getting it done. Meantime, back up in front, still no change there, and the gap remains roughly the same. Jim Policina leading the way from Enzo Cheng. In 3rd place is Mark Hudders, then David Truern, David Frisch, Taguchi-san rounds out the top 6. Down the straight here at Sydney Motorsport Park again, and as it's gone on, Jim made that jump, got the jump at the start, and in the early couple of laps really used all of the track. There was that little puff of dirt and dust going through the final corner and so on, but it seems to have settled now. He's in a nice rhythm at present here.
Yeah, it's a very calculated drive from Jim, isn't it? You could see he really made that turn 1 move stick. He needed to make it stick. But again, I still don't know how much Enzo's got up his sleeve. We know there's been a bit more race pace here. Currently, with the category as well, they both get a bonus point for fastest lap in their classification. So whilst the fastest lap outright is currently Jim in P1, they both still get a bonus point for their class. So you've got to play the long game with your championship boys. But again, some people just don't like finishing second.
They've amassed a lead to of 15 seconds, as you can see, over Mark Hudders there, back in 3rd place.
There's a little battle happening with car 170, David Frisch and David Truern as well. But ultimately, teammates within MC Corso. Speak of the devil, here they are on screen now.
Fighting for 4th.
I can see the delta, the split between them closing in. I can see they're getting closer and closer together. But they are part of the trifecta with Mark Hudders in P3 at the moment of the Red 3 Racing. So these 3 guys who are all racing 296 challenge cars together. They're all mates. But obviously, when the green flag, when the lights switch off at the start of the race, it's all about that track position for them.
More from Sam in the lane now with the coach, who ordinarily would be busy, but it's turned, I think, Sam into a slightly easier afternoon, sadly.
Yeah, a little bit like that, unfortunately, today. Josh Buchan, welcome. Your driver, Cameron Campbell, obviously isn't out there, had a bit of a shunt this morning, but you have a very interesting take on the race and racecraft, which I guess you specialise in as driver coach. What are your thoughts on the front 2 guys here?
Yeah, I'm still watching the race keenly. I'm a very close friend of Enzo's, so, cheering along on that bandwagon. But, yeah, it's Enzo's first year of proper door-to-door racing, whereas Jim's been doing it for an extremely long time. He's one of the highest capped in V8 touring cars for start. So I actually think Enzo at the moment is just trying to figure out a way past. It's clear he's got the speed. The hot air isn't bothering the car. So Porter coaching him, mate, just tell him to bomb the blokes. So, it's awesome between the 2.
Is there a particular point you sort of fancy him potentially getting an overtake?
Round here, it's difficult. There's no, easy cut and dry passes. To make a move down at turn 6, it has to start at turn 2 to make a turn and overtake at the last corner. It's got to start out of the hairpin at turn 8. So you kind of need to set them up, and that's where a bit of experience helps. So that's where Jim would be knowing that's how the move needs to be done and just protecting in those areas.
Great insight as always. Thank you, boys. Back to you.
Here they are in pit lane, Sam Charwood along with Josh Buchan, champion race driver and coach. And some big news obviously emerging here on the Friday. Sadly, Cameron Campbell is not taking part in this race. He's been another great progression story, someone with a relatively short racing career. And they will, with a car that was unveiled here on Friday, be moving into GT3 and hopefully by season's end. If not, it's a very good program that Zagami are putting together. And here's Enzo Cheng now, exactly as Josh suggested, dive bomb him. Jim Policina shutting the door. So now with 11 minutes remaining, we start to crank things up Cheng having a look. Has he got another few opportunities like that up his sleeve?
And I'm just wondering if they were watching the big screen as they were driving down the straight there and took Josh's advice instead of Ben's. But certainly in escalation, I think maybe Enzo is starting to show that little bit of maybe frustration of being behind him and trying to figure out where to make that pass work. But as Josh said, you do have to set a car up to overtake here a few corners ahead to kind of give that car in front the sort of disadvantage going into a corner to give you one advantage going out of the corner. And I think that's what Enzo's going to start to realise he needs to do here.
A few people, Josh Buchan, in Sydney Motorsport Park this weekend that's driven both the challenge car and that stunning new GT3 machine. Can't wait for that to hit the track. They've done a very good job with even just the wrap and the design on the car too.
Oh, the car's stunning. As you can see Enzo now is working that rear tyre as well. But yeah, the 23 car of Cameron Campbell in Ferrari Challenge, as well as his GT3 car, just stunning liveries they've put together. They are a really beautiful car, and it's you know, seeing the two cars side by side as they were the other day in pit lane. You can see, you know, how much more purposeful the GT3 car is for its endurance racing requirements. You know, our races are 30-40 minutes long, but those cars are running 12 hours, 24 hours. So they're a much more purpose-built car than these being a production-based. But you mentioned before, Rusty, the pathway as well. The Club Challenge program, the Passionate Ferrari Club Challenge, is the leader into this. It's the Learn to Drive a Race Car program where we have the coaches and engineers, but this now in Ferrari Challenge is where we step it up to competitive racing, and the next step is exactly as Cameron Campbell's doing, is moving on to GT3 racing. So it's going to be really exciting to see him graduate through those ranks. There's many drivers I've seen overseas in Europe that have done that to great success, and I wish them all the best here, and I hope we can sort of be involved to champion that effort through Australian GT next year.
And looking forward to seeing what the next step is likely to be for Enzo Cheng. Breakout year for him in 2025. So he's had a look. He's shown Pollicina that he's got the pace and maybe has overheard things on the big screens and PA that he can dive bomb it. Just a little awkward out of that corner. That's cost him a car length maybe or two.
And that's where that traction controls can start playing in. You know, if he's running around and setting 1-on-1 and Jim's on 2-2, he might be starting to hurt that rear tyre. So
wide there too maybe from the ideal line.
And that could be a case of just getting that tyre temperature of the front tyre a little bit too hot. When you start putting that brake temp in and those bigger braking stops and asking more of the front tyre, it does start to go away from you. You might hear the phrase tyres going off. That's what we start to see, is those sort of slightly longer braking distances and slightly less rotation of the car as they turn in, and that can start to affect him. And when that starts to happen, if you don't manage that, it starts to get worse and worse and worse.
So 8.5 minutes remain. Does Enzo on that basis cool things off? Let's relax things. Let's get it all back under control and then maybe have another crack.
Exactly. A couple of quick deep breaths. You want to try and maintain the gap, but at this point you want to, yeah, we call it managing the tyre. You want to try and keep the pace but not make any sort of over necessary moves, you know, trying to move the car around too much. Conserve that tyre. We do have live tyre pressure monitoring and temperature monitoring on the dash of these cars, so they can see their tyres going over pressure or over temperature in front of their eyes, and they can then drive to adjust to that. So he would start to be trying to manage that temperature and make sure he has a tyre that's primed and ready to go for that last 1 or 2 laps.
Being smart, but at the same time his whole view out the front of the windshield is one Jim Pollicina, and that's got him pretty fired up at the moment, trying to find a way past. We drift back and have a look at David Frisch, David Trewern. Mark Hutter's still holding down that third place to Gucci-san.
And he's closing in on the back of Frisch now in the 170 car, so it might have a little battle on here for P5 by the end of the race as well. Taguchi-san has been a little bit under the weather recently, so it's great to see him sort of make the effort to get on the grid. He's such an awesome personality to have in the lounge and in the pits over the weekend. And these two guys are, you know, they've had some great racing across the year so far. So it'll be really interesting to see in this next 7 minutes exactly what happens with those two.
A little bit of fine-tuning to Taguchi-san's seat insert earlier today too, just to get driver comfort right now. Starting to see a couple of penalties popping up. 5 seconds, I think, for Taguchi-san, and Micho Stefan perhaps is that. So we'll try and find out from Motorsport Australia Race Control. That's a question mark from me on exactly what the penalty is. But timing suggesting penalties for both our 6th and 7th place drivers at the moment, Taguchi-san and Micho Stefan. We'll come back to you on that. We're continuing with just over 6.5 minutes to go to watch the lead again. Car 7, Jim Pollicina. Enzo Cheng goes deep into turn 2, trying to stay right in touch with him. Closest we've seen, less than 4 tenths now between them. So he's recovered. He's maybe resisted pushing the Pirelli tyre too far to try and get it back under control to a more of an optimum operating window again. And he finds himself, as that sun begins to set a little bit here, at Sydney Motorsport Park as we approach 4 o'clock.
And here's some traffic as well, Rusty. That's the other variable. Is traffic now they're catching up on, is how Jim and Enzo manage the traffic. One thing I was about to say before I noticed that car in the foreground is Jim is not using all the track. He's making that car, we say, very wide. He's sort of positioning the car half a car width off the extremities to really make Enzo have to choose the tighter line to go around, which is always the slower way of getting around a corner. So Jim's really driving with his head here and positioning himself to try and make Enzo do the hard work to get around him.
It's been very much Ferrari Festival, a family event, and look, as we go inside the garage.
I know some there. That's Masahiro's driver coach all the way from Japan here, supporting him in all the rounds this year. It's great to have them travelling over. Again, awesome personalities to have here. He's got the best K truck I've ever seen with a Hayabusa motor running NOS on the drag strip. It's fantastic, but it's awesome to see those guys here supporting Massa as well, because it really is a big family here with Ferrari with the racing that we do.
Jim, first of the lap competitors, but Enzo runs right with him. They both go deep into turn 2. 5 minutes to go in the second race of the weekend to wrap up round 4 of Ferrari Challenge Australasia.
And that's what Enzo really needed to do then, is when Jim jumped, he had to jump with him and make that stick. If he got stuck there, it would have been race over for him in terms of that outright victory. So he really needed to make that stick. And again, we're closing in on more cars here. We're probably closing in on car 111. It's probably Tony Balden they're coming up on now. So trying to get past him cleanly as well.
Just keeping an eye, you can see through the windows a little bit of the wheel work from Enzo Cheng. It swirls again out of that section just a little for Cheng, so he's pushing at the moment. They both get by, I think, Tony Balden. So negotiating the traffic.
You mentioned Rusty just briefly as well. We saw yesterday afternoon, this time late in the day, he's driving into the sunset at turn 1. It's the other complication with this circuit. It's hard enough as it is with the 11 turns and the undulation, but you are driving straight into that winter sun now, which is really, really low in the sky, and it does make for a difficult sort of sighting of that turn in. It, only doing 265 k's an hour, but it does make for a really difficult way of seeing into turn 1, your turn-in point.
More from the pit lane. Here's Sam.
Yes, guys, just an update on those 2 penalties that you mentioned earlier. So they stem back from the start of the race. Both those drivers were unfortunately outside of their boxes, so outside of alignment. So they've both been issued a 5-second penalty respectively.
Just to expand on that, you work through with the drivers about starting procedure and the kind of things you need to observe, don't you?
That's right. In the driver's briefing, Anthony Jenkins, our race director, and Steve Owen, our driving standards advisor, we do go through that in quite a bit of detail to make sure, because particularly for Taguchi-san running in Japan, they do have slightly different rules around overlaps and positioning for those starts. So I did have quite a long chat with Massa a little while ago about that, because he wasn't aware of how different it was, and he did get stung at one of the other events. So I think we'll review that race start with both of them. We'll work through it and just make sure they really understand that positioning so they don't get these penalties. I don't think it's going to affect them too much in their own class here, which is good to see. But it definitely makes a difference to the cars behind them. It does disadvantage the cars behind, and that's why we have to apply that penalty.
Enzo Cheng using a lot of the racetrack. That was particularly evident before through 5 and in that area where they do monitor track limits. Jim's car in the corner that followed the front end of the car looked as though there's been a little bit of wheel work from him there. So that pressure, the intensity is stepping up with 2.5 minutes to go. But who's in the best shape to deal with this? So Enzo's applying the pressure. Jim's got loads of experience. We've talked about that, and he'll bring all of that to the fore right now. But does Enzo Cheng demonstrate kind of experience beyond his years in racing and play it smart, or does he roll the dice here?
This is his chance. We know he's been strong under brakes. Oh, Jim closing the door quite swiftly, but now he's just going to make sure he doesn't lose that here. As Josh said, this move at turn 6 needs to start here. He's got to get the overlap and the crossover working in his favour, so he can try and start getting that momentum out of turn 5 to try and stick that same move at turn 6 under brakes.
It is that sort of venue where you're talking turn 4 or whatever, but in fact, in some respects, opportunity can start several corners beforehand. How you set yourself up.
Exactly. You've got to push the other car into a position that will basically cause them to be out of position in a couple of corners' time because of that concertina effect of the one corner leading into the next. But yesterday there, turn 6, the other opportunity that Josh mentioned before, that's where Jim was strongest. That's where he put the huge move on Cameron Campbell. So Jim understands the breakdown of that overtaking to happen, and he'll make that car very, very hard to get past.
Time running out, just over a minute to go. Good drive off that corner for Jim Policina, and maybe gets half a car length back on Enzo Cheng. Enzo so strong under brakes. Look at this here. Then lining it up through the final corner. Unleash all that power.
They'll get a second lap out of this as well. It's 30 minutes plus 1 lap as well for our races. So we're going to get a little bit of extra time here. So we'll get 2 laps to try and make this happen.
2 more opportunities for Enzo Cheng. Looks a little further back at the moment.
Oh, big wiggle there in the rear end. Really pushing hard and deep into turn 1.
See if he can set it up to turn 2. Doesn't look close enough. Shows the nose at least to try and maybe make Jim look in the mirror. Maybe try to get him to focus on that rather than the road ahead.
You can see there both cars, Enzo's car pushing a little bit of understeer mid-corner there on that front tyre, working hard, and for Jim trying to get the power down. So they've both kind of got a strength and weakness each that they're working with or trying to manage at the moment in the car to get to the end of this race. You can see Enzo there just trying everything he can to position that car to get ready for the next part. But that sort of gap we're seeing on screen is really hard in a GT car like this to just lap that up in one braking manoeuvre. You've got to try and do it over a couple of corners.
They have built almost 25 seconds over Mark Hutters in 3rd place. Great drive from the pair of them here. They pushed each other the whole way through this race. But opportunities are beginning to run out for Enzo Cheng. They'll get to the start-finish line here at Sydney Motorsport Park and should get the last lap board this time by. So we're into the final couple of corners here. Is Enzo close enough now to maybe set up something by the time they get to the end of the main straight? Doesn't quite look like it at the moment.
You can see even Jim there using all of that concrete curb on the outside to really maximise his run. Some big deep breaths in the MC Corsa garage here as they're watching closely on.
They ride every lap, don't they? They experience the full gamut of emotions. Here comes Enzo again. Big dive, and it's for the lead. He'll get there. Enzo Cheng.
Oh, the double back by Policina.
Underneath comes Jim Policina, and look at the reaction. Bottom right of screen. Unreal. Good battle.
This for the last lap as well. That was the time he needed to make that stick. I'm sure he'll be kicking himself now, but Jim knew that with that under-over trick that he would have the car in the right position to get that move back. That just shows his class and experience there was just fantastic to watch.
Car looks a little squirrely for Enzo Cheng. Is there another opportunity? Where does he do it? Is it here at 6? Not close enough now.
And there's one more car here, which I think, based on the gap we just saw then, they might approach coming into that final complex, that 9, 10, 11, that last 3 corners. We could see a big drag race to the line here if that traffic doesn't play ball for them.
Enzo got out of 6 nicely. Where's he positioned for this next right-hander? Looks to the Wilder. Right-hand side looking through the window. Not quite close enough there as they get the drive out of there again. Mouth agape to the bottom right of your screen. They can't believe this battle. Brilliant stuff. Policina might just do this. Is Enzo Cheng going to line up for a slingshot out of the final corner? Can't quite sense that blue car is in the position to do it. They run down the final for the final time here at Sydney Motorsport Park, and already they're cheering. Jim Policina does it on Sunday afternoon here at Ferrari Challenge Australasia.
You can see Enzo fist pumping in the car there. That was an awesome drive there by both Jim and Enzo. What a fantastic race, and real respect between the two of them as well to see that. Mark Hutter's fantastic drive for him in P3 outright as well. Great effort.
He'll be thrilled with that. Good drive, solid drive in the number 1 for the Club Challenge 2024 champion. He takes 3rd outright on Sunday afternoon here. The margin at the end between Policina and Cheng was 0.22 of a second as they crossed the line. Fastest lap of the race to Jim with a 1 minute 31.76.
That's a great result, and that little battle pack we were talking about before of Trewern and Taguchi, that 5-second penalty obviously won't affect the outright position there, but still a great little battle we saw midfield as well on the timing screens.
And Paul was in the end able to get past Baby K and Tony Bale and got to 9th place.
That's a podium.
In the repaired, number 13, exactly
podium
right. So
Ferrari.
Brilliant work. So, waiting for some of the others to come through the final complex of corners here and to greet the checkered flag. Awesome weekend in here at the Ferrari Festival.
Now, Michaud doing the swerve for victory at the end there. He's got a 5-second penalty outstanding on his car with Jared Ferrari behind, so he will actually drop a place on finishing at the end of the race.
Had he not done that, would it have been a different story maybe? Wow.
Let's not dwell on that.
No.
There he is, the people's favourite Paul there with a fantastic finish. An amazing effort by the MC Corsa team. Not only did they finish the 2 cars outright first and second, but to get that car finished to start the race and it to finish the race is a massive achievement.
Huge work. Congrats to all of them. Jim Pollicina takes it out at Sydney Motorsport Park on the Sunday from Enzo Cheng, who gave it his all. Some good moments there between those two. Great, fair, wheel-to-wheel racing. And the under and over down at turn 2 at the commencement of the last lap. Epic stuff. Tony Baldwin finishes in 11th in the end behind Baby K. Whew. That'll be a podium and a victory lane area that will have some stories. We've enjoyed a walk down memory lane with some great cars on display here, and then also to celebrate the latest and greatest. The racing's been tremendous here over the weekend at SMSP. Here's Pollicina. We'll be taking you there very shortly to Sam Charlwood. Enzo Cheng as well takes out Copper Shell. Brilliant work and second in the Sunday race.
Now, Jim had a huge smile on his face finishing second outright yesterday. Let's see how big it is today finishing. It's his first outright winning Ferrari Challenge for Ferrari. And a massive, massive effort. Ben, the coach there, happy with his 2 drivers coming in first and second outright as well. But that's a massive effort for someone that has never driven a car like this before this year. For Jim to jump in and sort of retrain his mind on how to drive these cars and do so well is just an awesome result. He's a super, super happy guy, and great to see him get the achievement today.
The win is a story of many parts. He put down a qualifying lap that managed to secure him on the pole position. Coach says with a nice smile, well done. He used minimal rubber to do that. He bolted that fresher rubber on in the second half, if you will, of qualifying. Great camaraderie there between the pair of them, respecting and appreciating the battle. But the jump at the start was key.
That's it. I mean, he obviously had his eyes set from the start. He knew what he needed to do. From that outside position is a favourite of mine, to make that lunge on the outside into turn 1 and make that work. And he's just made it stick. And obviously that little battle we saw at the end there with that overlap between the two on the start of the last lap was a nail-biter for everyone. But awesome to see the respect between the two of them there in Parc Fermé.
So helmets coming off. Let's take you down there as we soak up all of the celebrations. Here's Sam Charlwood.
Thank you, guys. I'll let Jim get himself sorted. What a great advertisement for this category. Jim, congratulations. That was an incredible race. You said from the start that you had a strategy, you wanted to get out in front. You executed that to point.
Doesn't always work that way, unfortunately, but it did today. Enzo kept the pressure on all the way through, and the tyres went away a little bit the last couple of laps, and he had a go. But lots of respect, and ended the way I wanted it to.
Which is, I guess, the important thing for you. Now, we heard from Ben Porter that you guys were running different strategies in terms of your traction and ABS setup. So were you expecting a potential dive bomb towards the end?
I was surprised he threw it down there, and to be honest, he probably overcooked it a little bit. So, you know, it is what it is, but there was respect and there was no contact, so all good.
It was great, clean racing. How do you hold your own? How do you keep your composure in those moments?
That's a good question. It's just a lot of experience, eyes forward, and just keep pushing.
Great result. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Oh, we'll move over to Enzo Cheng. Enzo, congratulations. Thanks. That was, from where we were standing, an epic race. Congratulations.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, you know, it was a shame that I lost out the gym at the start, but, you know, tried to put the pressure on him and try to wait for an opening, and, you know, couldn't make it stick in those 2 moves in the last lap. But, yeah, fun race overall.
I think we've got to keep in mind here that Jim has been doing this a long time as well. You're a relatively unknown prospect at the start of the year, but you have really put yourself out there as a force. That final move took a lot of bravery. What was going through your mind?
You know, I was watching him all race, and I feel like I had him on the brakes into 2 and maybe into 8 as well. And I thought, you know, last lap, throw it down there and see if it sticks.
And a great weekend all up for you. You've been up towards the pointy end all weekend. What's the plan for the rest of the season now?
Now keep building on what we've achieved this round and, you know, go back and aim for another overall win at the Bend.
I think a lot of people are going to remember the Enzo name for another reason this weekend, so congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Okay, we'll move to first place. Jared Ferrari, we spoke to him yesterday and we're back here again today in the 488. Congratulations.
Yeah, great, thanks. Yeah, really good race. I have to admit I feel bad for Misho because he drove an amazing race at an amazing pace. We overtook each other a couple of times and had good fun. So yeah, good race overall though.
This has sort of been the exclamation mark on the Ferrari Festival this weekend. Great conditions both days. Big crowd today as well. What did it feel like out on circuit?
Hot. Looked great on circuit. It was nice coming around through a few of the corners. You could see a few people in the crowd, so it always makes it, I think, a little bit more exciting. But yeah, I think it capped off the weekend really nicely.
It's been great watching from where we are, so congratulations. Guys, back to you.
Why don't we take a look at some highlights for you of the race while we get set for the podium. Sam will be there where we get to celebrate a terrific weekend here at the Ferrari Festival. This was the moment. He'd done a great job in qualifying, Jim Pollicina, but he read that. The reaction time was superb.
Yeah, that's right. Lights out and away we go, as they say, but he absolutely jumped there. And to get that move to stick around the outside really gets that psychological edge. There's 2-1-2 there. We didn't see that earlier on, that contact there between Misho Stefan and Taguchi-san. And that might explain that fight back we had to see later in the race there.
As the race unfolded, Enzo Cheng gradually began to build himself into a position where he could maybe attack Jim Pollicina. There were other battles going on right throughout the field, including a forced error, if you like, through one, and that had the heart rate going.
As Jared said there, all they went through in that race, that overtaking, Jared running through turn one, the exit there at 215 k's an hour, but still coming over the class winners. An awesome race for Jared.
Enzo had been sizing him up. Was turn two the place to potentially make that move? He showed the nose on that occasion. Taguchi-san there a moment ago. Back we went. Enzo trying to minimise the wheel work. Here he goes. Throws it down the inside. Jim is wise to the move and knows that he can cut back under the over-under treatment, if you will, at turn two, and have a look at the reaction here.
Adriano Giorgi there on the right of the screen with his hands on his head. The team principal really wearing his heart on the sleeve. But, you know, again, it's just awesome to see those two drivers having such a good tussle on track, but with the respect they show. And the team as well having a massive environment behind them to kind of support these drivers is fantastic.
It went right to the line. In the end, 0.22 of a second would split them. Jim Pollicina would take the race win, and he would grab the fastest lap of the race in the process too, a 1:31.76. Fabulous weekend here, not just in terms of the motorsport, but the whole festival vibe, celebrating everything that is great about one of the world's biggest brands. A car company that dates back to the late 1930s, I should say, and the late great Enzo Ferrari just loved his motorsport.
Absolutely, and I think that, you know, you can see the crowd that's around the podium here as well. That's the thing I've seen today is a lot of people, a lot of families here coming to the motorsport. Some of them for the first time I've spoken to. They've never wanted to come to the track. They love watching Formula One and things like that, but to hear of the Ferrari Festival being in their backyard in Sydney here at Sydney Motorsport Park is just awesome to see so many new faces and new families coming out to sort of take part in the passion around this brand.
Podium is set. To MC it all for us, here's Sam Charlwood.
Thank you, Rusty. What another action-packed day of racing here at the Sydney Motorsport Park. Round 4 of the Ferrari Challenge Trofeo Pirelli Australasia Championship. Delivering the trophies today, we are honoured to have Andrew Jung from Ferrari Australasia. So we'll start first with the Trofeo Pirelli class. In third place, please give it up for Paul van Lowenhout. In second place, please make some noise for Mark Hutters. And in first place, holding his own, please welcome to the podium, Jim Pollicina. The Trofeo Pirelli Award for the Trofeo Pirelli class also goes to Jim Pollicina. And finally, our Copper Dealer Award, please come to the stage, Ferrari Sydney. Congratulations, guys. We'll let the media grab some pics. And at your feet, gentlemen, you will find the champagne. All right, a big round of applause for our Trofeo Pirelli class. Okay, next up we have the Copper Shell class. In third place, let's have a big round of applause for David Frisch. In second place, a picture of consistency all weekend. Let's welcome David Truern. Finally, let's please make some noise after that epic last lap. Enzo Cheng. And finally, our Copper Dealer Award for the Copper Shell class. Please welcome to the stage, Ferrari Sydney. I hope he's brought his umbrella. We'll get another pic for the media. All that's left to do, pop open the champagne. Let's have a big round of applause for the Copper Shell class. Just while the guys reassemble here, finally we have our Trofeo Pirelli 488 class. Had a huge weekend at the Sydney Motorsport Park. In third place, can we please bring to the podium Baby K?
Copy, mate.
Great stuff. In second place, can we please welcome to the podium Misho Stefan? Finally, first place for the Trofeo Pirelli 488 class. A picture of consistency as well. Please welcome to the podium Jared Ferrari. Jared is going to have his hands full as well, because also going to him is the Trofeo Pirelli Award. And on behalf of Barbagallo Ferrari, the Copper Dealer Award. I'll let these guys grab a quick pic as well. All right, boys, you know what to do. Let's pop open the champagne.
You just cue me, mate. So the champagne spraying here and the celebrations, I think, are going to go for a little while. Great crowd here this weekend. And what it sums up for you is when you bring together an event that celebrates racing and car culture, you get this kind of result. Sam, that's been brilliant on so many levels, hasn't it?
Have you got any nails left? Because I don't feel like I do. That was just incredible. I think it spoke to everything that's great about the Ferrari brand. Some great racing, plenty happening off the track. It was a fantastic weekend.
And of course, the next round of the championship just a few months away at the Bend Motorsport Park in South Australia.
Yeah, really looking forward to that. I think if you could pick the 4 best tracks on the calendar, out of everywhere in Australia, this class has covered them, so really looking forward to the Bend.
We are out of time. We hope you have enjoyed it. On behalf of Sam Charwood, Renato Laverso, Cameron Vandendungen and all of our team, that wraps up Ferrari Festival and a brilliant round of Ferrari Challenge Australasia. For the team, it's bye for now.